Hey there, welcome to Ask Ron. Got a couple buzz topics to go over today. The first one I want to talk about is smack talk. Sergio Oliva is getting ready for the Chicago Pro, and Sergio's been engaging in some smack talk back and forth online with various people. A few weeks ago, Nathan Asher was smack talking Phil Heath, and so I guess that the topic comes up is, does smack talk have a place in pro bodybuilding? This is supposed to be a professional sport, and we have, my guys calling each other out and talking shit about each other and this and that. I'm going to beat you. If you follow mainstream sports, there's plenty of smack talk all the time. So to say that this is something that's in the realm of professional wrestling, WWE, and not professional sports is ridiculous. And let's face it, pro bodybuilding is not the most thrilling sport. It's not. It's just, there's nothing really happening. It's guys flexing on stage. A couple of them have decent posing routines, most of them kind of boring. So there's not a lot going on. So the excitement leading up to shows is basically, who's going in, what are they going to look like this year, what are the judges going to do, and we'll get to that in a minute. There's a need for a little more excitement, something to get people looking forward to these shows and seeing this person standing next to that person, knowing that they've been engaged in a rivalry that's, taking place online or social media, whatever. And, it's only because we have social media now that these rivalries and the smack talk is so prominently known by the fans. Back in the old days, you saw this type of thing in the magazines, but because the magazines had a lag time of, typically about 6 weeks from the time you talk to an athlete to the time their remarks or interview would be published, it wasn't as, now you can follow in real time on someone's Instagram page, on their Facebook, their Snapchat or whatever. This person just said that. This person just came back at them with that. You can see the exchanges in real time as they're happening, which is, it's pretty cool, when you think about it. Technology's come such a long way. If you told me when I was starting out as a teenager that technology would be at the point where it is now with the smartphones and social media and all that, I mean, it seems like science fiction. We don't have flying cars and we don't live on the moon, but let me tell you, we got some, for those of us who are pushing 50 like me, the technology we have today in 2018 is pretty amazing. It's very futuristic in terms of what we grew up with. But anyway, digressing as usual. Smack talk, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, as long as it's you're not personally insulting people, giving out details of their private lives that shouldn't be put out there, things like that. Obviously, that's a no-no. But if you're calling someone out based on their physique, based on what they've done in shows, things like that, that's pertinent. That's fair game. Like I said, I don't believe personal attacks on people's character or, talking about maybe they beat their girlfriend or, stuff like that. That's a whole other level. And that's just TMZ. That's gossip shit. And we don't need that. But the regular old smack talk, I don't have a problem with that. Next thing I want to talk about is this huge development in the Olympia this year where the fans are going to be part of the judging process. I don't think it's exactly clear yet how that's going to happen. People have suggested that maybe there's going to be some sort of handheld device on every seat. This is going to be tremendously expensive if they do something like that. More likely, I believe it's probably going to be an app or something they're going to want you to install on your smartphone, or you're going to be on a website. It's probably going to be an app or something. Or maybe it's on the social media. You'll be able to vote for who you feel is the champ. And your vote, and I'm assuming this is going to go across all divisions, bodybuilding, open bodybuilding, 212, classic physique, men's physique, women's figure, women's fitness, women's bikini. Am I missing anything? Probably. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a handheld device where it's going to be like America's Funniest Videos where they, at the end, they vote for their favorite video. Lock in your votes. But it will be something similar to that where there'll be a dramatic buildup, and the last part of the reveal as to who the winner is will be the percentage of votes that was given to the athletes by the fans. I don't know how well this is going to go off the first year. I'm sure, Robin Chang, I've known Robin well over 20 years. He's top professional. He does everything first class. He's going to make sure this is done right. That I have no doubt. I don't have any doubt at all in the technology is going to go right and all this. And people are also suggesting, of course, conspiracy theories always abound in bodybuilding, right? So people are already suggesting that they won't really count the votes, or they'll make sure it's they're gonna present that like the fans voted for Phil when they didn't, or I don't believe that. And I'm still not sure as to what percentage the fans' votes are going to count in relation to how much the judges' votes count. I certainly don't think the fans should have 100% of the vote. A lot of fans do have great eyes for physiques. A lot of fans don't. A lot of fans, they love a certain bodybuilder, or they love something about them. They love the mass, like Big Ramy. If you're a mass freak fan, Ramy's your guy. He's 300 pounds on stage. Thighs are like 36 inches around. I mean, the guy's just monstrous. But, I have no horse in the game, and I still would never have Ramy beating Phil. And I've been very critical of Phil at times, but I still wouldn't have Ramy beating him. Ramy does not have a physique that really flows aesthetically that well. Sorry. He's, like I said, he's a massive dude. He's got decent shape. Does he have great shape? No. Does he have the muscle detail, separation, maturity, striations, all those little things that Phil has? No, he doesn't. If he had those, I think he could beat Phil, but he doesn't. He's nowhere near Phil's level in those aspects, those qualities. But like I said, a lot of fans will get, some guy might be like really good looking or have a great personality or something that makes him more of a fan favorite. Whereas the judges, theoretically, and I do believe they do this, objectively look at the physiques, and they're just judging what's in front of them on that day. And they're not being swayed by personal opinion of the person, or, how cool their videos are. Oh, that guy should win because I just saw him squat 800 pounds last week, or he was doing incline dumbbell presses with 200s 2 weeks ago, and that's a real bodybuilder. He should win the Olympia. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've talked to people who base who they like for the win based on things like that. I'm not even kidding. They really do, because it's an emotional thing. It's people get attached to certain athletes for their own personal reasons. Sometimes it might have something to do with, them in particular, like, this guy's really strong and they're really strong. So they like really strong pros and they favor them above others. They get extra brownie points in these people's eyes because they're super strong as well. Or some guy gets into awesome condition. He's the most conditioned guy in the Olympia. He should win. Or he's the greatest poser, or, he's got the best arms. Like I've said so many times, these shows are, any bodybuilding show from the local level to the Mr. Olympia is supposedly based on the total package. They're looking for the best combination of attributes, which are structure, size, shape, proportion, symmetry, condition, presentation. You're looking for the best overall person. So it's not always going to be the biggest person. It's not always going to be the person with the best shape. It's not always going to be the most ripped guy. Certainly not always going to be the best poser. It should theoretically be the person who is the very best mix of all those attributes. So he might have really good size and really good condition. Someone might have a little more size than him but be less condition or less shape. You see what I'm getting at. So I do think it's great that they're trying to add an element of excitement to the Mr. Olympia this way. And as long as this fan vote doesn't count more than, let's throw a number out there, say like 25% toward the final outcome, I think it's fine. And like I said, Robin Chang, consummate professional, does everything first class. He's going to do a great job with this. And, it's probably was needed, because what's really exciting about this year's Mr. Olympia, Phil's most likely going to cruise on to 8. Who's stopping him? Dexter, Bonac, Ramy, Nathan, Rowley. These guys are all really, really good. They're great bodybuilders in their own right. Do I see any of them beating Phil Heath this year? I do not. Phil, especially, he took a lot of heat last year because he wasn't at his best. And knowing Phil to the extent that I do, I don't know him that well, but based on what he's done over the years, and he will come back better. Hani will make sure, Phil will make sure. So barring some unforeseen injury or calamity or something like that, he's going to come in looking really, really good. Better than last year. And when Phil's near his best or at his best, there's really nobody right now that's going to be beating him. Sorry to say. And like I said, I have no horse in this race. There's no one who I'm dying to see beat Phil Heath, and I'm not dying to see Phil Heath get beaten. I think he's been a really good champion. He's been unbeatable for all these years, and Kai pushed him really hard, and those were some fun years. But because we don't have that crazy rivalry right now, we don't have like a Jay versus Ronnie, we don't have a Kai versus Phil, we don't have anything like that. I don't see Bonnick versus Phil as being quite as exciting. So putting something like this into the mix where the fans are going to have an input, a voice, a way to vote along with the judges towards who's going to win the show. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like everyone else, I'm just very curious as to how it's going to be done, how it's going to play out, what percentage the fans' votes will count toward the outcome, and will it really make a difference? Are the fans really going to be that different in what they're looking for and what they're choosing as opposed to the judges? This all remains to be seen, and that does make things a little more exciting. So, I'm glad. There's other things to look forward to in Olympia, but this is something different, and it's better than the challenge round, which was a one-time experiment back in 2005, for those of you who remember, which had no impact on the final outcome of the show, but it was an additional contest within a contest. And reigning champ Ronnie Coleman got beat that year by Gustavo Badell. You can Google challenge round to find out all about it. It was pretty interesting experiment that did not work out in a way that would have made it something that we would have kept doing. We didn't keep doing it. So that's what I feel about this. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good idea. We'll see. Maybe it won't pan out. Maybe this will be a one-time thing, or maybe from now on this will be like the talent shows on TV. America's Got Talent, American Idol, where the judges have a certain amount of decision making as to who the winners are, and the audience at home, the home audience, America, or in this case the world, gets to vote, gets to choose who they feel should win. Last question I'll get to was submitted by Albertos. So he says, genes, training, nutrition, rest, drugs, supplements, mindset are the elements of success in our sport. In which order? Do you have anything to add, like support from your environment or luck to avoid any injury and health problems or unexpected events? Thank you very much. Success in this sport does come down to a wide amount of factors. Of course, genetics are always going to be primary. Sorry, I'm starting to sweat. It's hot up here. Genetics are going to be key. Bodybuilding is based on what you look like. And a lot of what you look like, unfortunately, you can train as hard as you want, take all kinds of drugs, be so dedicated to your rest and sleep, but things like your bone structure, your muscle length and insertions, shape, proportions of your limbs, how wide your hips are, these things are determined before you're even born. There's nothing you can do to change them. So genetics, genes are always going to be by far the top factor in any bodybuilder's success. I've seen plenty of guys over the years with excellent genetics who weren't the hardest trainers. They weren't that dedicated to their nutrition. They just weren't putting out the kind of effort that you would see on a lot of their peers in the gym who didn't have those genetics. These guys would look way better, and if they competed, they typically would beat all these guys up to a certain point. Like I say, the further up the food chain you go, from local, regional, junior national, national, you're getting more and more people with great genetics. And as you do that, the people with great genetics who work harder and do things right, they're going to beat the other guys with the same level of genetics who didn't do all the right things. So genetics, and then I can't rule that out, because without that in place, you're not going to be a champion. Without favorable bodybuilding genetics in terms of those factors to build that size and have that shape and that look, you have to have that genetically predetermined first. Then you can make it, you can bring it about, you can create that physique. So training, yeah, you have to be consistent with your training. You have to train hard, definitely. You have to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So if you try very low reps and they're not doing much for you and you keep doing them, you're not going to do as well as, say, if you experimented with higher reps or blending your rep ranges, things like that. So training, you need to find, but like I said, with people with great genetics, pretty much any type of hard training done consistently is going to bring about pretty great results. Nutrition, yes, you definitely have to feed the muscles. You have to provide the building blocks, the proteins, the carbs, the healthy fats. You have to support the muscle repair and growth, no matter what your level is, if you want to see optimal results from your training. And, like I said, if you have great genetics, you might be able to slack up until you run up against people with great genetics who aren't slacking. But you definitely have to do that. Rest, sure, you need to rest. I've known guys with great genetics who didn't get enough sleep. They love to party, love to drink, they love to smoke, snort, whatever. They didn't get a lot of rest. And I know it held them back because they could have made better progress, because I saw people with similar genetics who didn't party who made much better progress because they were giving their bodies the chance to recuperate from the workouts, to grow, to make the progress that they should be making. And if you're not resting, if you're not getting enough sleep, then you have extra cortisol in your system. It's going to be a little harder to build muscle, harder to lose fat. There's just a lot of things that you want to get your rest. Supplements. If you're eating an awesome diet, if you're eating fresh, wholesome food, chicken breast, potatoes, eggs, turkey, fish, rice, oats, fresh fruit, vegetables. If you're eating 5 or 6 of those meals a day, you're good. You can throw in some basic supplements, a pre-workout, creatine, a multivitamin, whey protein shake for after your workout. But for the most part, food is much more important than supplements. Always has been, always will be. You throw some good supplements on top of that, your results are going to be even better. But the diet has to be right there, has to be on point. So you can take the best supplements in the world, but if you're not eating right, you're not going to see the best results. Conversely, you can have an awesome diet and you'll still see pretty damn good results with no supplements at all. Throw a little bit of supplements in there, you're going to be even better. Mindset, yeah, that's definitely important because the mind controls the body. And even among people with great genetics, and when I've known so many of them over the years, the ones who are mentally strong, the ones who are dedicated and disciplined and could get to the gym every day and train hard and prep their meals and eat the meals when they were supposed to and get to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock instead of staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning. The people who were able to really stay focused and have a goal and work towards that goal and have a plan, those are definitely the ones who would have, on average, much greater success than those who are lax in any of those areas. So a mindset of a champion, someone who's really dedicated, they have a clear goal, what they want to accomplish, they know what they need to do, and they follow through. Even when things get tough, and when there are obstacles or when there are things that discourage you, or life happens, and that's another thing. Injuries and health problems. You're very lucky if you never have an injury, but obviously a successful bodybuilding career is going to be a lot easier if you have no injuries. The more injuries you rack up, the tougher it's going to be to continue to make progress, because you're going to lose training time. You're going to have muscle tears. You're going to have things that affect your training, and you don't want injuries. So someone who has no injuries, and it's not always luck. It's people they warm up properly, they stretch, they get therapy like deep tissue, maybe cryotherapy, chiropractic, they foam roll, stretch, and they warm up properly, and they don't do anything stupid in the gym. They don't say, well, I can squat 405 for 10. Let me see today if I can do 600 for a single. Recipe for disaster. Doing dumb shit like that, and using bad form and training way heavier than you need to. There's no reason, I've said this before, there's no reason for bodybuilders to just do sets of 3 to 5 reps or anything like that. There's no reason, in my opinion. You can have your own opinion. You can argue with me all you want. That's my opinion. I don't believe it's necessary. I don't believe it's conducive to a long, healthy training career to be training that heavy, especially on a regular basis. So if you can avoid injury, you're going to be way better off in the long run. You're going to be more successful than the guy who's battling injuries, missing training time. His exercises or selection is limited because of injuries, things like that. Injuries suck. Injuries will hold you back. So avoiding them at all costs is imperative. And the last thing, health problems and unexpected events. Obviously, if you get a health problem that's beyond your control, that's, nothing you can do about that. So if you come down with, like Mike Francois, great bodybuilder from Ohio, won the Arnold Classic. He was a national champion. He was awesome. He came down with colitis and he had to have his colon removed, and that was the end of his bodybuilding career. Dennis Newman, awesome bodybuilder, won the USA. I believe he would have been a very top Arnold Classic, Olympia, top 3, top 5, maybe even would have gone on to win those shows. Who knows? He was excellent, but he came down with leukemia in his mid-20s, early mid. Geez, what was he? 23, 24, and that was the end of it for him. He came back, but he was never the same. So things like that, injuries and illnesses, yeah, they will knock a person out, but that's usually nothing of your own doing. It's unfortunate luck. But the last thing, unexpected events. Yeah, I mean, life happens. Like I said, things happen. People lose their jobs. People you know and love might die. They might, your wife might leave you. Your kid might come down with some condition or that requires a lot of medical bills and treatment. I mean, there's so many things that can happen in your life, good and bad. And sometimes, obviously, most of them are unexpected. Life throws curveballs at us. You have to deal with them. And a lot of times those issues will have to take precedent over your bodybuilding. So, if you suddenly have a spouse or a child with severe medical issues that require a lot of treatment and, a lot of payments, and you got to drive them all over for medical appointments and treatments and fly to different places. Yeah, you're not going to be able to focus on being the greatest bodybuilder in the world at that point, right? You got other more important shit to worry about. So yeah, there are a whole whirlwind of factors, a whole smorgasbord of factors that all have to be in place to create a champion. Genetics being prime, and the other ones that we talked about are all important too. They all play a role. You have to stay healthy. You have to have a strong mindset. You have to do the right things, train hard, eat right, get enough rest. Drugs, yeah, drugs play a role. People need to use drugs or get the right drugs. You know how to use them. There's a lot of factors, and you can't really put them in any order, except I would definitely always put genetics first and foremost. And then after that, as far as I'm concerned, most of those are pretty equal because they all have to be in place. If any of those are missing, you're pretty much screwed. So it's been a short one. I got to get to the gym. It's getting to be that time for me. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe on YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.